is going on, my fashionista friends? Welcome to the Sewing Encyclopedia and another video. Okay, let's begin this process. First things we need to do is we have to try and use the illustration that you're seeing and the dress form. You need to try and correspond them. So I've actually got an illustration here of a top, but I want to analyze it according to what the dress form says and how that responds to each other. I think that's really crucial, because if you don't know how to analyze an illustration, for example, if you're working for a designer and if you're given an illustration, how do you do it? Let's say you don't have a trade sketch. Now, obviously in most cases you have a trade sketch, but not always, right? I've actually got an illustration, if you've seen, I've got an illustration there that I want to try and make. Now, for me to be able to make it properly, I need to know, for example, so where the neckline, the depth is, right? That depth has to be in the right spot too. So, for example, so if what I'm going to do first is, once I've got this, I'm going to work out what I want, what are the most crucial things, right? Where the length is. So for example, there, right? There's your length. Okay? It's a high waist. So if you see here, let's say your bust line is here. Yeah? Does that make sense? So if the bust line is here, the waistline, so if the bust line is here, the waistline, if you see that difference, so if I just go, where's that? That's approximately 1 centimeter below. So I'll take it 1 centimeter below, so let's say there, right? So if you see the difference between the bust line and the waistline, this is not exactly half, so it's approximately half, right? If that's halfway. So what I'm going to do is on the dress form, so let's say that is your bust point, that is your waist point. If halfway, so let's say it's 19 centimeters, halfway, right, would be 9.5, right? So I'm going to go a little bit above that. So let's just say I'm going to go maybe 7.5, okay? So now that you've understood this, so this difference is 7.5 centimeters, okay? So now I've worked out what the difference is. So we need. Now, if the neckline is approximately here, and that is about, I'd say about there. So if it's about there, which is little less than half. So on the dress form, I'll say, okay, if that's half is 7, right? So let's say I'm gonna make it 6.5, maybe 5 centimeters, okay? So that section here is 5 centimeters. All right? Now, the length of it. So if you say the length of the sleeve, now the length of the sleeve, obviously I don't have a sleeve block with me, but if you have the length of the sleeve, we can do different versions of that. So if I just draw it there, approximately, it seems like between, it's almost, so if you divide the length between here to there into 3 parts, 2/3 would make up the sleeve length. So once we're doing the sleeve pattern, for example, we can have that and actually work it out properly, right? But you've got an idea now, okay? So then we need to now work out the length. Now the length of this. So if the hip line is here, so you can see on this section, there is the crotch level. So the hip line is obviously above that, right? This is probably a bit low, so I'd say actually it's more like there, right? So if that is the case, the difference, so it's approximately hip level, maybe even a bit higher. So if I go from down here, 7.5, right? 30. So this is 30 centimeters. Okay, now how do we work out volume? Because if you now see, if you're seeing this carefully, this is approximately where everything about this is all about trying to work out proportions, all right? So if that's where the waist is, if you now take where the end of that is and end of this is, right? If I just measure this, so let's say that is what? About 3.5 centimeters, and that is about 8 centimeters. So it's almost double. So you can almost decide that right now by just analyzing that, is you can make almost like a not just a circle, almost like a double circle skirt with lots of gathers in it, right? Because we wanted to have it, because that little smooth effect that it's got. Now, by just looking at this, I can almost take decisions, right? Because of the volume going that way, right? The volume is going in two different directions, okay? So if the volume is going that way, can we make a distinction on what sort of grain line you want to have? So if you've got grain line going, so if you've got the general idea about grain lines, right? So if you've got a straight grain that way, you've got a cross grain that way, and you've got a bias grain. Now you want the volume to stick out more towards that area, right? What do you think you need? You need that to puff out. So I would almost instantly decide this is going to be cross grain, because cross grain tends to puff away from the body, which is what you want. All right. So that would be my first thing was that, right?